There is something hypnotic about driving alone in the middle of the night. The world shrinks down to just the dashboard lights and the small stretch of road illuminated by your headlights. You feel invisible, untouchable, until you realize you are completely alone, miles away from help, and someone is watching you. This happened in the fall of 2019. I was driving cross-country, moving from Colorado back to my hometown in Oregon. I had been driving for over 10 hours. It was around 2:30 a.m., and I was on a stretch of Route 50 in Nevada, a highway famously known as the loneliest road in America. And they aren't joking. For hours, I hadn't seen a single gas station, street lamp, or another car. Just endless black desert on both sides of the asphalt and a heavy, freezing rain pouring from the sky. I was listening to a podcast, fighting to keep my eyes open, when I noticed a pair of headlights in my rearview mirror. At first, I didn't think much of it. It was actually a relief to see someone else on the road. They were moving incredibly fast. Within seconds, the headlights grew massive in my mirrors, completely blinding me. They were tailgating me so closely that I couldn't even see the front bumper of their car. I tapped my brakes lightly, just to signal them to back off or pass me. Instead, the moment I touched the brakes, the lights changed. Bright, strobing red and blue lights suddenly flared up behind me. My stomach dropped. I glanced at my speedometer. I was going exactly the speed limit. I hadn't been swerving. Why was a cop pulling me over out here in the absolute middle of nowhere? I put my turn signal on, preparing to pull over onto the muddy shoulder of the highway. But as my car started to slow down, a cold, heavy feeling washed over me. Call it intuition or a primal survival instinct, but every alarm bell in my brain suddenly went off. I looked closer into the rearview mirror. Something was wrong with the police car. First, there was no siren, just the blinding lights. Second, the red and blue flashes weren't coming from a light bar on the roof. They were coming from the inside of the windshield, right near the dashboard, like a cheap LED strip you could buy online. And the headlights, they weren't the crisp white lights of a modern police cruiser. They were dull and yellowish. It looked like an old, beat-up pickup truck. My foot hovered over the brake pedal. The shoulder of the road was pitch black. If I stopped here, no one would see me. No one would hear me. I remembered an article I had read years ago. It said, if you are being pulled over on a dark, isolated road and you feel unsafe, put your hazard lights on, slow down, and call 911 to confirm it is a real officer. So that's exactly what I did. I hit my hazard lights, slowed down to 30 miles per hour, and grabbed my phone. My hands were shaking so violently, I dropped it twice before I finally dialed 911. 911 emergency, a woman's voice answered through the static. Hi, I stammered, my voice trembling. I'm on Route 50, heading west. I'm being pulled over by a police car, but it doesn't look like a real cop. Can you please check if you have an officer in this exact area? I heard the rapid clicking of a keyboard on her end. Sir, what is your exact mile marker? She asked. Her tone had suddenly shifted. It was sharper, more urgent. I don't know, maybe 20 miles past the last county line. Please, he's right on my bumper. The operator paused. Sir, she said, her voice dropping, we have no active patrol units within 50 miles of your location. Do not pull over. I repeat, do not stop your vehicle. I screamed as my car violently jolted forward. The fake cop had just rammed the back of my car. He just hit me. I yelled into the phone. Keep driving, the operator shouted. Do not let him run you off the road. Keep your foot on the gas. I am dispatching state troopers right now, but they are far away. I slammed my foot on the accelerator. My car roared, the tires slipping slightly on the wet asphalt before catching grip. I pushed it to 80, then 90 miles per hour. The truck behind me stayed right on my tail. The red and blue lights were strobing wildly, reflecting in every mirror, filling my car with this chaotic, terrifying glow. He rammed me a second time, harder. My car swerved into the oncoming lane. I fought the steering wheel, desperately trying to keep the car from flipping into the desert ditch. He was trying to kill me. He wasn't just trying to pull me over anymore. He wanted to run me off the road. I drove like a madman, tears streaming down my face, praying to God that my tires wouldn't pop. After what felt like an eternity, I saw it, a faint glow on the horizon. It was a massive 24-hour truck stop. I didn't even use the exit ramp. I swerved directly across the dirt median, my car flying over the bumps, and slammed on the brakes right under the bright fluorescent canopy of the gas station. There were at least 5 massive 18-wheeler trucks parked there, and people walking around. I threw the car into park, completely paralyzed by adrenaline. I looked in the rearview mirror. The fake cop hadn't followed me into the light. The truck had stopped at the edge of the highway, idling in the shadows. The red and blue lights clicked off. For a split second, in the glow of my brake lights, I saw the outline of a massive, rusted pickup truck. And then the engine revved, and the truck peeled away into the blackness, disappearing back down the lonely highway. The real state troopers arrived 20 minutes later. They took my statement, examined the huge dent in the back of my car, and escorted me to a motel in the nearest town. I didn't sleep a single second that night, but the truly terrifying part, the part that still gives me cold sweats, happened 3 days later. I was finally back home, sitting in my living room, when the local news came on. The anchor was reporting on a gruesome discovery. A 28-year-old man had been found dead, brutally murdered, in a ditch off Route 50. His car was found abandoned on the side of the highway, just a few miles from where my chase had started. His hazard lights were still blinking. The police stated that based on the evidence, the victim had voluntarily pulled over to the side of the road in the middle of the night. They warned the public to be on high alert for a suspect impersonating a police officer. If I hadn't trusted my gut, if I had ignored that feeling and pulled over to the shoulder that night, that news report wouldn't have been about a stranger. It would have been about me. We all trust our phones implicitly. When the GPS tells us to turn, we turn. We don't question it. We assume the little blue line on the screen knows exactly what it's doing and that it will guide us safely to our destination. But technology doesn't know who or what is waiting in the dark. This happened to me in November of 2021. I was driving back to my university after visiting my family for Thanksgiving. It was a long drive, about 6 hours through the rural, mountainous roads of West Virginia. Around 1 a.m., a heavy, thick fog started rolling in. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. I was driving at half the speed limit, gripping the steering wheel, just trying to stay on the pavement. Suddenly, my phone screen lit up. The GPS alerted me that there was a massive accident on the highway ahead, and traffic was completely stopped. It asked if I wanted to take a faster alternate route. Without thinking, I tapped yes. Recalculating, the robotic voice said. Following the new directions, I took the next exit. The paved highway quickly turned into a narrow, 2-lane country road. Then, a few miles later, it told me to turn onto an unpaved dirt road cutting straight into a dense pine forest. I hesitated, but the GPS showed that this road would loop me around the accident and put me back on the highway in 20 minutes. So I turned. Almost immediately, the atmosphere changed. The trees on either side of the dirt road were so tall and thick that they formed a canopy over my car, blocking out the moonlight. The fog was trapped between the trees, glowing eerily in my headlights. I glanced down at my phone. No service. The little blue line was still on the screen, but the map around it was blank. I was completely off the grid. The road kept getting narrower. Soon there were no lines, no signs, just mud and dead leaves. The branches of the trees started scraping against the sides of my car. Scratch, scratch. I was moving at maybe 10 miles per hour, my high beams cutting through the heavy fog. I decided this was a terrible idea. I needed to turn around and just wait in the highway traffic. But as I looked for a place to make a U-turn, my headlights hit something massive lying across the road. I slammed on the brakes, stopping about 30 feet away. It was a huge pine tree. It had fallen completely across the dirt path, blocking any way forward. Its roots were torn out of the earth, pointing up like twisted fingers. I put the car in park and left the engine running. My first instinct was to get out and see if I could drive around it. I actually had my hand on the door handle. But then I noticed something wrong. The tree hadn't fallen naturally. In the beam of my headlights, I could clearly see the base of the trunk. It wasn't splintered from a storm. It was completely smooth. It had been cut with a chainsaw. A wave of pure ice-cold dread washed over me. Someone had intentionally cut this tree down to block this exact road. Before my brain could even process what to do next, my rearview mirror suddenly lit up. A massive, rusted pickup truck pulled up behind me out of the fog, stopping less than 5 feet from my rear bumper. Its high beams were blinding, trapping my car in a sandwich of light between the truck and the fallen tree. I was boxed in. I locked my doors. My hands were trembling so violently I could barely hit the lock button. I grabbed my phone, desperately trying to dial 911, but the screen still aggressively displayed no service. Through my side mirror, I saw the driver's side door of the truck open. A tall man stepped out into the fog. He wasn't wearing a police uniform or a tow truck vest. He was wearing dirty coveralls, and he pulled a long metal crowbar from the bed of his truck. But he didn't walk toward me. He just stood there, leaning against his hood, watching my car. Then I saw movement in the woods. To my left, just outside the reach of my headlights, a flashlight clicked on in the trees. Then another one clicked on to my right. There were people in the woods, and they were slowly stepping out onto the road, surrounding my car. I didn't think. Instinct completely took over. There was no room to turn around. The tree was in front of me, the truck was behind me, but there was a small, muddy ditch to the right of the truck. I threw my car into reverse. I slammed my foot on the gas pedal. My car shot backward, tires spinning and throwing mud everywhere. The back corner of my car violently smashed into the front headlight of the pickup truck. The impact threw me against the steering wheel, but I didn't stop. I kept my foot pressed to the floor. My car slid sideways, crashing through the thick bushes and down into the shallow ditch. I heard a man yell angrily, and the sickening sound of a crowbar smashing against my trunk. But my tires caught the solid dirt. The car violently jolted out of the ditch and back onto the dirt road, safely behind the truck. I shifted into drive and floored it. I flew blindly through the fog, going at least 60 miles per hour on a narrow, twisting dirt road, not caring if I crashed into a tree. I just needed to get away from them. I looked in my rearview mirror. The truck was trying to turn around, its headlights sweeping wildly through the trees, but I had a head start. I drove for 15 minutes until my tires finally hit solid asphalt. A few miles later, my phone pinged. I had a cell signal. I pulled into a brightly lit 24-hour gas station, ran inside, and begged the cashier to lock the doors and call the police. When the police investigated the dirt road the next morning, they found the cut tree. But the truck, the people, and any evidence they left behind were completely gone. The officers told me that criminals sometimes use fake reports on navigation apps to create road closures on highways, tricking the algorithms into redirecting solo drivers down isolated backroads where they set up ambushes. My car was badly damaged, and the repair bill was huge, but I paid it gladly, because I know that if I had stepped out of my car to check that fallen tree, I would have never made it out of those woods. Whenever my GPS tells me to take a detour now, I don't listen. I stay on the main highway. I don't care if I have to sit in traffic for 3 hours, because sometimes a shortcut is just a trap.